Hello everyone, welcome to another session on banker customer relationship. This video is in continuation with the previous video in which we talked about one of the very specific, that was the debtor and creditor relationship that exists between the banker and the customer. This was the first topic that we have taken into consideration, that the general relationship of the banker and the customer can be divided into various relationships: debtor and creditor, agent and principal, Pledgee-Pledger, Bailor Bailee, Lessor Lessee, advisor and client, and various other relationships that are available in the literature or at various internet sources. Right, so in the previous video we have clearly defined and understood the concept of debtor and creditor, with which particular product and services the banker is becoming the debtor, and at another point of time with another product holding, the banker is becoming creditor, and vice versa, because both the roles were changing. Similarly, in this particular video we are going to discuss about the various other relationships, the other important relationships like agent and principal, pledger and pledgee, lessor and lessee, advisor and client, and we'll take care with two different objectives. One, banker and customer. Who is who actually? What I mean by this is, say for example, agent and principal. So who is working as an agent and who is working as a principal? Point number one. Second point we'll be considering is, because of which particular product and services this relationship is coming into existence, and who is performing the role, which role is being performed by which of the party. So we'll be directly coming to the next relationship. The debtor and creditor relationship we have already seen, understood in the previous video. Now we're coming to the pledgee and the pledger. So this relationship between customer and banker can be that of pledger and pledgee. This happens. Now, giving explanation to point number one, that why it is happening, why this is a relationship known as pledgee and pledger. So this happens when customer pledges or promises certain assets or security with the bank in order to get a loan. So here we are talking about the collateral security. So whenever a customer is taking any kind of loan from the bank, or secure loan to be very specific, so the customer is depositing or pledging any collateral security to the bank. So in this case, the customer becomes the pledger and the bank becomes the pledgee. Under this agreement, the asset or security will remain with the bank until the customer repays the loan. So this is point number one that we are taking here, that in case of loan and because of loan, when a customer is seeking loan from the bank, so customer is depositing any security with the bank in the form of collateral security or the secured loan. So in that particular case, the customer, because he is pledging, he is going to pledge the security, so he or she will be, the customer will be the pledger, and the party to whom the pledge has been made, to whom the goods or securities have been transferred or given as the bailment, as the security, that will become the pledgee. So the customer will become the pledger because he owns the property or she owns the property, or customer owns the property, and to whom it being transferred is the pledgee. So the bank will be pledgee in every case, right? So this is pledgee and pledger. Now we'll be understanding the rights of the banker as pledgee. The very first right is right to retain the pledge goods. So right to retain the pledge good means till the customer will not make the full and final payment or repayment, I should say, with the EMI, or the entire loan amount is not clear, the loan is not clearly, or the full payment or repayment of the loan has not been recovered, the entire amount of the loan has not been cleared. Till the time, the bank has a right to retain the pledged goods given as a collateral security by the customer. Now point number second is right to recover extraordinary expenses incurred by the banker during pledge. So once the banker has taken or retain the pledged security, pledged goods. So in order to maintain that particular security or that collateral security, if banker is having any kind of extraordinary expenses in order to take care of that particular security, the banker has a right to recover those expenses incurred during the maintenance of that particular page. And third point, most important, is right of sale in case of default by the pledger. And the customer, who is also a pledger, if the customer is unable to complete the loan terms and conditions, if he or she of the customer is not able to repay the loan, then the banker as a pledgee has a right to sell that particular property, particular goods, particular collateral security given as a security against the loan. Right. So these are the rights of the banker as a pledgee. Continuing with the same relationship, we're coming to the duties of the banker as pledgee. There are few duties which the banker has to perform, and the very first one is duty not to lose the pledged goods, because whatever the pledged goods has been handed over to the customer, they are given in the form of collateral security, not for the usability purpose. So the banker will not be losing the pledged goods. That will be taken care as in the form of collateral security. Point number second is talking about the duty to return the goods after fulfillment of purpose. Here in this case, fulfillment of purpose means returning the entire loan amount and completing the loan formalities. So customer has to repay the entire amount of loan along with the interest component. So once the fulfillment of the purpose, once the promise has been fulfilled, now on the banker's part, the banker has to return the goods which has been deposited to him, deposited to the banker as a collateral security. Next point is duty to proper care of goods. So this is because of this particular point that banker has to take proper care of the goods, proper maintenance of the goods has to be taken care by the banker, and it is because of this particular point that one of the right to recover the extraordinary expenses incurred by the banker, that is coming into existence. So whatever extraordinary expenses, whatever extra amount that banker is incurring in order to have a proper care of the goods or proper care of the collateral security, proper maintenance of the collateral security, so the banker has a right to recover those extraordinary expenses. Last point is duty not to mix the goods with the other goods. So there may be different collateral securities, there may be many different collateral securities. The banker does not have any right to mix, but on the other part, it is the duty of the banker not to mix, keep all the goods separately with associated with different loans, associated with different customers, right? So this is all about the relationship between banker and customer as pledgee and pledger. Now, another relationship that exists between the customer and the banker is agent and principal, that we have already seen when we have studied the functions of the commercial bank. That was in the secondary functions where we talked about the agency functions. So whenever the banker is acting as an agent on behalf of the customer or the principal, the banker is known as the agent and the customer on the other part is known as the principal. And that is because banker is performing the agency functions or agency services. So to name few services which can be understood or can be taken as an example of agency services are like buying and selling securities on customers' behalf, collection of checks, dividend bills or promissory notes on customers' behalf, acting as a trustee, attorney, executor, correspondent or representative of a customer. So the banker is acting as an agent performing many other functions such as payment of insurance premium, electricity and gas bills, handling tax problems, etc. So in this particular case, banker is acting as an agent on behalf of the customer, thus giving rise to the agency functions and services. Here, the most important point that we need to understand is the banker will be the agent and customer will be the principal, right? Now coming to the last one, that is the lessor and lessee relationship. So before understanding who is the lessor, who is the lessee, why it is existing, let understand what we mean by the lease. That is because the lessor and lessee, both the parties, lessor and lessee, coming into existence. So lease is a contractual arrangement calling for the lessee, that means the user, to pay the lessor, that is the owner, for use of any asset. So when any asset, generally it is used for the property or immovable assets, when it is being handed over to someone else for usability purpose, for using for a fixed period of time. So the owner is known as the lessor, and the other party to whom it has been granted is known as the lessee. So broadly put, a lease agreement is a contract between the two parties. One is the lessor, another is the lessee. The lessor is the legal owner of the assets. Maybe for an example like the property, building. The lessee obtains the right to use the assets in return for a rental payment, that is known as rent. So how it is existing in the banker perspective, that we need to take care. The narrower term, specifically with regard to banking, that is the rental agreement, can be used to describe a lease in which the asset is a tangible property. Language used is that the user or the owner rents the land or goods let or rented out by the owner. Here in bank, we're talking specifically about locker operation, because locker is in the premises of the banker. So what bankers are doing? Bankers are letting out that particular property, that particular piece of locker to the customer, so that they can use it, but the property is owned by the banker. So in that particular case, this relationship between banker and customer becomes the lessor and lessee in case of locker operation, when the locker is being handed over to the customer. Here, the most important part is the banker is the lessor, because that particular property belongs to the banker. The locker belongs to the banker, and banker is giving it on lease for using that particular facility of locker to the customer. So the customer is the lessee, and in return the banker is charging the rent for the locker. It is not the fees, it is the specific terminology is the rent for the locker, and that is known as the locker agreement and locker rent. Thank you everyone.